Hey, hello and welcome, Powerheads, to the 38th episode of the original after show for Power, the PowerWatch. Joining with me today is Eric Evelyn.
How you guys doing today?
All right, so we're on board. We're holding down the fort today a little bit by ourselves, but we hope to have the rest of the team back as soon as possible. I hope you all enjoyed the episode because this, to me, was the fastest Power I've ever watched. I was like looking at the screen when I saw the credits, and I was like, "It's over." And then I checked, and it was going by pretty fast. You felt that way?
For sure. This is definitely one of the quickest episodes of Power I've ever watched as well. When I watched it for the second time this afternoon, I don't think I could finish my breakfast as quick as that episode felt like it ran by. So it was definitely a quick episode.
Hungry Man meals.
It was definitely a quick episode, but I think it was jam-packed with a lot of things that we're going to see come to fruition down the line, and a lot of building of certain characters as well.
So definitely they did a lot of character work in this episode for sure. Definitely agree with you and co-sign on that one. We could kind of retitle this whole episode The Rebirth of Tariq, because really, man, he was catching it from every different direction. He was having all these people giving certain opinions about his dad, and none of them were negative. And, we all know how he was feeling about his dad at the time he pulled the trigger. He just thought his dad was the most horrible person on the face of the planet. He was self-centered and all this. But all these people are telling him about all these different things that he did. Let's go one by one. Simon Stern.
Obviously, Simon has his business interests involved. He doesn't really care about the St. Patrick family. We all know that. It is all business for him. It's no personal. So I could definitely understand why he needed the St. Patrick name to still be, a great name in the community and society, and he needed him to die, as a hero, not the villain.
Yeah, I agree. And he's in bed with Ott and Mock and all the rest of them cats anyway in a Democratic Party. So, they all trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. And, I'm not saying that the real Democratic Party is like that, but political parties, you can never trust anybody as far as you can go. So, getting back to Simon, though, everybody had their little key that they kind of twisted in Tariq's head in order to open up his view about his dad. And I do remember that Simon said at one point, your father he was great in looking at the future, but he would always confuse his moral code with his ambition. And they really should be the same thing. So, and that's definitely a businessman's aspect or approach to it.
Yeah, of course. I think you have to understand that, we have Ghost, who was trying to run a business and run a family at the same time. I think that, those two things got crossed every now and then. And because of that, oftentimes he didn't make the best decision for everyone involved. I think that what we're learning is that Ghost made the best decision for Ghost at the time that he could make that decision, regardless of whether it was advantageous for his business or the effects that may or may not have on his family.
All right, so the next person that popped that key in Tariq's head, I call her VWAP. You know who I'm talking about?
No, go ahead and elaborate.
Vanessa Williams with a tan, VWAP. So that's my little code for Professor Milburn. Because she's a little bit of a hottie, as everybody seems to recognize, including Ezekiel.
By the way, if she ever watches this show, she can feel free to find me on any social media, give me a call. Look, trust me, I'll definitely give her my phone number any day of the week. I digress.
I understand your point of view, my good man. All right, so basically, she's like super sensitive with Tariq, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but she's super sensitive with Tariq, and she's like pushing all her agenda forward as far as trying to help him, and she's setting up this whole vigil, with his dad being involved and all this other stuff going on there. So she's another person who's like, she approaches him and she's like, your dad was such a great man, so we wanted to do this for you.
When you see the scene where she was talking with her sponsor, they kind of pulled the Tiger Woods like sex addiction thing here. I think that I don't think she necessarily has a sex addiction. I think she has a love addiction. I think that she craves that, attention, that love. And I think she is now projecting that onto Tariq. So I don't think she really cares about James St. Patrick. I think it is her attachment to Tariq, and that's why you saw it in her forcing them to, give him the opportunity to get into canonical studies. And so I think that that's something that we're going to see play out down the line. And I don't see it playing out in a positive manner, honestly, down the line. I think that it's going to end up in a messy situation.
Well, if we listen to what the sponsor said, she kind of downplayed the addiction and love thing too. She didn't mention it, but at the same time, she said, those type of things are cute, when you're younger. So if she was really saying that was her major problem, I don't think she would be saying that was cute at any point in time if she's going to be a sponsor for that particular problem.
No, I think, no. I mean, and, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. And the reason being is because I think that she's saying that that's cute when you're younger, basically saying, hey, I'm excusing what happened in the past, but now let's work towards a better you going forward into the future. So let's not focus on who you were prior to, this moment right now. That's cute, that was fun in the past, but that's not how you can live and thrive and survive in this world. You can't survive in that manner. Because as you could see, in the scene when she was in the office, I mean, things, I think got out of hand, even as far as where she wanted them to go.
Well, she's actually making all these moves, man. She's actually making all these moves. As her her sponsor was pointing out, she closed the door behind them. She's talking to this dude, she's programmed him into working at the university and then in her department. So she's doing all these things. But on the real, as far as addictionology is concerned, you never downplay any time period or anything like that as far as an addiction. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I think there's something deeper going on as far as her addiction is concerned, and I think we don't know what it is yet.
I mean, and that very well could be. I just think that her sponsor, not being, someone that's a clinical psychologist or not being someone who may or may not have any type of, formal education on how to, help people through this. I think that, coming from the human side of it, you're a doctor, I'm not. So coming from someone who is just the everyday citizen, sometimes trying to say that, this is okay because it already happened, it was in the past, that was, like she said, that was cute when you were young. Basically saying, okay, cool, we're excusing it now. We don't need to move that same energy forward.
All right, now up next, my main man. I mean, loving this dude's performances since way back. He's been in the movies with my uncle. He's been in Roots. Uncle Gabe, Glenn Turman, always a beast. And he pops up at the funeral and he tells Tariq, your dad had a rough past and he changed it around and he got us all proud.
Yeah, I definitely think that his character popping up was major as far as it shaping the way that Tariq's, eulogy went. I don't think that Tariq knew what he was gonna say, what direction he was gonna go. He was getting pulled in a ton of different directions. He was getting pulled in you need to, slander your father in public to help your mother. He's getting pulled into, you need to praise your father in public because that's in your best financial interest, right? So he's getting pulled in many different directions. And I think that him, his uncle coming in was amazing because he kind of really shaped the way that Tariq went about his eulogy. And that, yeah, your father's a complicated man. Like, he's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he always did what he felt was best for the family. And I think that was the one voice that he really responded to at the end.
I think he combined them all, but I agree with you. That's the major impact, the major force with it. And he definitely channeled that information. And you could see as he was speaking, he was understanding it. And then, man, when they switched over while he was in the middle of making these confessions in front of all these people, they're not really knowing what he's really confessing to. You switch over to Tasha and she got the little tear running down the cheek, man. And that effed me up, I'm telling you.
No, it did. I think that whole scene, honestly, kind of got me a little bit. Let me backtrack a little bit. We saw everyone hating everyone that was there at one point hated Ghost or James St. Patrick or whatever you want to call him, right? But you saw everyone there feeling those levels of emotion, understanding that, wow, like no matter what we thought about this guy, you know, obviously nothing was ever proven of him. You know, he was never convicted of anything. But, you know, you saw Tasha crying, whether that be because she saw how strong her son was. She, you know, maybe she missed Ghost.
I think it was
regret. Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think that it's kind of like a finality to it. And I think that's the same thing, you know, Tariq, I think he got emotional as well because he finally, for once, put aside that hatred for his father and realized, you know, what was going on, and that, yes, he really was trying to do everything possible for us. And he said it at the end of his eulogy. He said, my father worked to make sure I never had to live the same life that he did.
And I could become everything that he couldn't.
Exactly. And I could become everything
that blew me up
that
like
he
Joe Jackson,
never.
you know what I mean? So yeah, that was definitely a dope moment. Assignment Stern Circus. I'm not feeling that. And he's got like his whole Democratic thing, and then he's got what you call it, Tate actually even approaching but carrying the casket. I mean, you know, because we were trying to figure out last week who is behind this, and now we know. Simon Stern, Ott, in the Democratic Party, who was all up in the cahoots with that piece. Now, Tasha, I'm like, okay. First of all, they're not going to let you go anywhere with anything other than some bargain basement crap when you locked up to speak at anything. And she steps out of that joint like the best madam of the juke joint. And I'm like, she got the girls all pushed up and on notice. You know, it's like you get the sheer stuff going on, the high leg. I was like, what?
If that dress was any other color, she could have worn it to the club.
And which club is that?
I think it was important for us to see Tasha in that manner, because, you know, from the end of Power, and now the first 2 episodes of this series, Power Book, I think that, you know, we've seen Tasha in this extremely negative light. I think we've seen her, you know, as this criminal that we all know she's not. And I think that it was very important that we were able to see her outside of that. You know, I know that they had to put the handcuffs on her, but I think it was extremely important that we see Tasha as the woman that she was, the woman that held down their entire organization on the family side for a long time. And everybody's family, not just her family. You know, she held down Tommy's family. She took care of a lot of things that I don't think she quite gets the credit for.
So it's hard to hate her entirely. You like her, you don't like her. It's a big mix with her, but it's never 100% negative. She got her little message in at the end, and I like how that's kind of showing how Tasha is using her intellect. I mean, she's a little hoodie for somebody with her level of intellect, and she doesn't really think things through a lot, but she has the intellectual capacity to do everything. I mean, she was running the books and all that stuff, and now she's in the Hoosgow and whatnot. She's overhearing the conversation, and I try to do some research on the prison guard's name because she's like doing Charlie Murphy's role, but on Tasha, but I just couldn't find that lady's name. But her stuff was dope, man. And that whole situation where she overheard that, and she was like, oh, I got to get a Plan B pill, and she was able to pass it to Tariq. That set in motion a chain of events. Basically what's happening is, you know, we got to move forward. We're going to come back to that, but we got to move forward to the dinner. So here we at the dinner at Monet's. Everybody's around there. Everybody's chilling. Tariq has weeded his way into the dinner party. I really did notice that he was refusing to drink anything alcoholic, which was probably a big smart move for him, because, you know, loose lips sink ships and all that stuff. And Monet was like, she was coming out like a drill sergeant. Who am I, Miss Cleo? Get the door. You know, she was like handling stuff like that. But then Uncle Frank came in.
What I think about that whole situation is, I think that obviously there's, you know, Tariq has ulterior motives for why he wants to get in with his family. We saw scenes where he was Googling, you know, information about the Tejadas. So he definitely has his ulterior motives as to why, you know, he wants to be invited to these dinners, and be around. I felt like part of it was manifested already. He knows that his mother's in jail. He knows that that Tejada is running that jail, And so how do you think he got that information to his mother? He got that through, that connection that was made. And the best part about it was, from his standpoint, is that it wasn't even done by his hand. He didn't have to go ask for it. The cousin came over thinking she was seeking information, and lo and behold, he was actually using her to get his work done for him. So, I mean, we're really starting to see where they're developing Tariq's character into, let's be honest, into a little bit more intelligent Ghost. Ghost would have gone to the house and either tried to tell them or ask them to do that for him. Whereas Tariq says, let me use a little bit of intellect. Let me make sure that my hands are clean and make sure I had no part in it.
And see, I think that's going to be dope for his business in the future. But the other aspect is business related. Monet and them, they're in the underworld. And right now he may not have, because she still has feelings for him, but he might have burnt his supply. So he's going to need to re-up at some point in time in the future. And if he can get in good with the Tejadas, I'm pretty sure he can find a connect there.
Exactly. I think that's part of it as well. I think he knows that the only way he's going to really be able to survive for those 4 years is going to be to, get in with them. And I think he's, like near the end of the episode, when he was talking to his mother, and he said, remember when they said drug dealers either end up dead or in prison? And he said, I think I found another way.
Yeah, that's key right there.
Doesn't mean he's not going to stop selling. It doesn't mean he's going to stop selling drugs. It means he found a way that he thinks that he can still sell his drugs and not end up dead or in jail.
Now, Uncle Frank walks in. I have a issue with the name choice, because Frank Castillo sounds like Frank Castigliani. And you know what that is?
Nah, enlighten me.
That's the Punisher. Okay, so the most moral character. He's violent as hell, but he is the most unswervingly moral character in the history of fiction. And you're gonna place a similar dude with the name as a rat. So I didn't like that part. But outside of that,
I think the name was just, can't really say this any type of other way that's, gonna be politically correct, but I think they just picked the most Italian name that they could pick.
Well, he's not Italian, he's Latin, Latino.
Yeah, but I think when you associate that type of crime family with, but he's a cousin too. So I mean, I think you just never know. He's kind of giving off like Latin, like mob vibes. To be honest with you, he's kind of giving off Italian mob vibes. But I just think they brought his character in there for a short while, not a long while. And I think the only reason that his character was brought in there was to actually strengthen Tariq's character, because when they pulled him aside and they were talking to him and he said, he's a snitch. But I think he got out and nobody knows about it. He's a snitch. And they took care of him. And then Mary J's little side piece comes by with the snitch paperwork.
Snitch papers.
With the snitch paperwork. And everybody knew it because they'd already taken care of him. But
that's like the Washington Post. That's like the Washington Post. It's the snitch papers. I got my copy.
Yeah, that was really just to strengthen Tariq's character, because what that did is that got him more involved with the Tejada. They now are starting to trust him. And I think that's the trust level that he's wanting to build.
But the other point on that I wanted to make is that this dude basically was a staple on Dexter. And Dexter had a huge following. And they brought that dude in for like 5 minutes, and they threw him through the reversible door, and they kicked him out the back in 5 minutes, and it was nuts.
Let's say, here's the thing. For Tariq to call him a snitch, he didn't have to know whether he's a snitch or not, right?
He doesn't.
All Tariq has to do is call him a snitch, make him look like a snitch. They're gonna kill him before they figure out the answer anyways. So it was a win-win for Tariq. Either he really was a snitch, so it was the right decision to get rid of him, or he wasn't a snitch, but they'll never know that he wasn't a snitch because they're gonna kill him off the information.
But Monet had already established in her head, because she shut him down, especially when he said some stuff. I mean, he called her a boss, and then he was like, "You're filling out to the daughter," and I was like, "Damn." So basically, she shut down all that and she killed all of that because she thought he was wearing a wire. But then the fact that Tariq is doing what he's doing, like you're saying, they're actually seeing eye to eye on stuff, and that's going to bring them closer, like you're talking about.
I definitely was getting Wire vibes from him when he was in the house.
When he walked past the radio and it was like.
I was definitely getting Wire vibes from him. The way he was talking, calling her a boss, telling her that she was taking over the business. It sounded like he needed an on-tape confession, is what it sounded like. And
exactly. He's just crying for information. And he was saying just enough to get him talking and whatnot. So basically, Sergeant, I'm gonna call her Sergeant Monet at this point because she's barking orders left and right. And she was like, she told your boy after he came back after talking to Tariq, Kane go handle that. Now, Kane is not only a killer, he is a triple threat. This dude is muscle to intimidate people. He's an assassin. He takes people out. And he's a cleanup crew. That dude is all in one. It's a triple threat.
Here's what I'll say, though. And I'll give this to the writers of Power Book. Having the next person who's the head of something and in charge being an extremely strong female character, I think was a great addition to the show. We've watched Tommy and Ghost run this show for season after season after season. And we've watched Tasha struggle. So seeing this strong female character, barking orders, taking care of things, she's got the ability to tell somebody it's time for you to leave. They were there pissed off on a mission, you're messing with my girl, and she walks in and says it's time for you to leave, and you get up and go. That just goes to her power.
Now, speaking of last little bit on Mary J, I just hope she doesn't roll her eyes in bed anymore because, with those big lashes on and everything like that, that was giving me a seizure when she did that. So I think maybe she needs a stunt person for that or maybe some more training. But moving forward from there, did you notice that Drew was like an art course? So they got some type of connect with that right there. And that sounds like a bonding point between Drew and Tariq on that one.
Yeah, I think that bonding is definitely gonna be there. I think that's something that's gonna develop. But I do think that in the grand scheme of what Tariq is going through right now and what he's working on, I think that school is very minor. He's going to school to get the money. So, and that's the only reason he's going.
But if you don't start busting those books, he's not gonna be in school.
It's a true statement. I also don't think he's gonna be able to keep his roommate eligible to play basketball. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Are you talking about Jesus Shuttleworth?
Yes. I just don't think it's gonna be possible.
Because he is not on his game.
Not only is he not on his game, even if he was on his game, he just doesn't portray himself to be the sharpest tack in the box. Come on, rule number one, if somebody's gonna write the paper for you, at least have to read it. You have to know what's in your paper.
Not read the book. Not read the book, read the paper.
Read the paper.
Not just this paper, the Moby Dick paper.
You have to read the paper that Tariq wrote for you. And you could tell that the professor already knew he didn't write that. And
yeah, and
she knows what's going on. She knows what's going on. And I think that the problem's going to happen with, she doesn't know the back end deal, right? And so I think something, this is obviously, kind of prognosticating forward, but I think that something that could potentially happen is that in trying to help Tariq, not have to write these papers for him and do all this work for him, it could potentially backfire because she'll out it and then now he's not going to be eligible. And the old saying, if he doesn't play, you don't stay. So I think her wanting to help people and her, overzealousness for loving people and doing more than what she ever should, I think might come back to bite Tariq in the butt a little bit.
Now let's not forget our man right there, Braden. I gotta say, I'm really warming up to this character because this dude, he's like, he was silly and all this stuff, and he likes to do the fun things that kids like to do and all that. But at the same time, man, he has Tariq back, bro. You see him going after people at the vigil, smacking their cameras down and stuff when Tariq wasn't even around yet.
That's just because he wants to sell drugs and make money. That's
No,
the only
but
reason.
look, Tariq wasn't around for that, so he was doing
Doesn't
that.
matter.
I think he's got his back. He does want to sell drugs, but I think he's got his back. Well, I just got the ticker that just let us know that we're running out of time. Oh, damn, we don't get to prognostications for next week. But I'm hoping we were able to put enough filling in that pie for you guys until next week. So we're going to go and check you out next week, and we'll welcome you back to the Power Watch. Stay tuned for the question and answers.
Okay, hey Powerheads, here we go. Yeah, I know I got more wardrobe changes than Beyonce, but had to make it happen. So here comes my favorite part of the show when I get to answer these questions from the audience. So first up is Saini from Virginia. And I wanted to save her for last at first because what she has to say is very important, but I want to go ahead and hit that now.
PowerWatch2 goes. Awesome show. Very impressed. I am definitely enjoying it. I have a question pertaining to Tariq's relationship with his professors. I've been a professor for over 20 years, and I've never had such an intense, involved, hands-on relationship over my 20 years of teaching. And I'm wondering where you're going with that. Both professors seem very hands-on with Tariq. And I do recognize that there's a racial component involved with that particular university, but I'm very curious. And also the student who was very vocal and using profanity in the classroom, that was interesting too. But again, I'm curious about Tariq's relationship with his professors. What's going on with that situation? That's my question.
See, here we go. We got the insider's perspective. She's a teacher, okay? She's familiar with students. She knows the code of conduct, how to manipulate things appropriately and stay within guidelines. And she seems to be raising questions with Professor Milburn. Professor Milburn and Jabari seem to be blurring the lines of what's acceptable. And really, if you think about the Jabari angle, it seems to be that he is more reacting and playing safeguard in reference to Professor Milburn's actions. Now, as we discussed earlier in the program, and there was some dissenting opinion about that, I think she does have a sexual addiction. So who knows if she's playing the mentor role or she actually has an interest for Tariq. Who knows where that's going? Only the writers of power know, but she is going over and beyond to infiltrate his life and hopefully to build him up, but there's more scenarios that are a little bit more sinister than that. So you got to keep an eye on that. Basically, they're both kind of like, going past the boundaries of what's acceptable. So we'll see where that goes over time. Next up, we have Brian, and he's back again. That's one of my favorite dudes right there. It's coming out of Lynchburg, Virginia.
Man, Rick stepped up to Kane. That's the last thing I expected. Doesn't he know that's Mr. Slice and Dice?
He had a little mention of Kane. It was kind of funny, actually. Kane is no joke, and he is becoming more and more multifaceted as they're going in there. I mean, this dude, he's, like I said before, he's a triple threat. And we're only on the second episode. I mean, what else does he do for, the family? And I mean, how much responsibility can he have? And you kind of look at the situation, the way he's playing it up, it seems like, okay, well, maybe he's not that sharp, but it also seems like he's a little lazy, and that's what that's about, as far as wanting to think a lot. Because he sat back, he got in Tariq's face, and he tried to intimidate him, and then, he actually listened to Tariq, which shows some intelligence on his part, and then he went back and told his mom, yeah, this kid's smart. So basically what happens is he was able to curtail all this anger and all this aspects of his character, which seemed to be tended towards violence. And he was able to actually think his way into a different scenario. So that's something to keep your eye on, because that guy, he's unpredictable. But if he's smart too, that's gonna be kind of tricky. Last up, we have Mike Robb. alias the original 007. Now, I know a lot of you cats think 007 is some white dude from England. No, that's not how it started. Ian Fleming came up with the original 007, and that's who just chimed in. But he was like, it's the 60s. I don't know if a black man's gonna be out there waving a gun and it's gonna be very popular. So he said, let's put him in London because there's no black people in London, right? Just messing with you. So anyway, that's the original 007. And he was chiming in. And he was just basically talking about the direction that everybody's going in and how Tariq is kind of matriculating this whole thing.
Hello, this is Mike from Silver Spring, Maryland. Just my observation after episode 2, after Ghost's funeral service. It looks apparent that he is really gone. I don't believe there will be a dream sequence later that will bring him back to the show. Tariq is suddenly on his own to navigate his own life. Now, he's forced to split his time between college and hustling to pay McLean big bank to get Tasha acquitted and out of jail. His only recourse is to get heavy in the drug game like his father did. As he tries to balance his operation along with his school grades, love life, Mary J. Blige's crew, and his own family, what does he have to do? Yep, become a better version of his pops. We are gonna watch Tariq evolve into Ghost Part 2. Book it.
Who knows what is coming up next for Tariq? I kind of like the way they're expanding the boundaries of his character and going a little bit more in depth. And he's using his mind. And another audience member actually mentioned that he may be more intelligent than Ghost. Because Ghost, he goes at it and he plans 3 steps ahead. But he doesn't use that much of his intellect to get out of scenarios as Tariq does. Because Tariq, we all know, he doesn't have the muscle, but he's got the brains. And maybe that's all that good education. Maybe it's some genetics passed on from Ghost, who knows? But he's making his way in this world. So, moving on. Can't wait till next week. We're gonna have some prognosticators back. We'll also have B. Limits back on the drinks. She's got something special cooked up for us. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. Until then, Power Watch out.